Hello there. Why, welcome back. I'm feeling better after that whole week of COVID and crap. Okay, so this is video 2, which we're going to be talking about the setting without having to deal with the video 1, all that controversial stuff. So, here we're talking about why I really love the Wilderlands of High Fantasy by Judges Guild Games and all the other people that have contributed to it over the years. So first, we're going to talk about the setting here. So when you, boy, it's really tough. So we're going to go back to break all the rules of when you talk about a setting and just go back to the origin of the planet. So lots of large stars, and we know that the solar cycle, when a star, we're all made of stardust. All the atoms in your body are been created in stars. All the molecule, not the molecules, but all the atoms, iron, gold, nickel, plutonium, all of that was created in stars or stellar explosions or that kind of stuff. So when a star gets sufficient, like our star, Sol, the sun, once it reaches iron, it doesn't have enough energy to create any atoms heavier than iron. It can create carbon and create anything lighter than iron on the elemental chart, but nothing heavier than iron. It's just part of it. I don't know why it does that. It just does. So you can. Oops, wrong one. Here, we pick up the gain up. So when a star reaches its mass, when it fills up with the item that it can't, it gets larger, expands, and then will contract or explode. We think our sun will turn into a brown dwarf. We think there are lots of brown dwarfs out there. That's the technical name for the type of star it's going to turn into. It's weird. Getting back to the point. So, in this system, the star was so large that when a star can be large to begin with, it will then collapse back into a smaller star. Not like a red dwarf or a brown dwarf. It will actually come into a yellow star, a small red star, or something along those lines. And this is what's happened here. In this system, of which this is the 4th planet of the system, I think there are 8 planets. An inconsequential amount of planets. Right, and it outgassed, and when it has formed back into a star, it set off a lot of funky stuff. It had a very large mass. It had 2 extra elements that 2 extra metals that it could create that are important to the setting. We'll get to that in a second here. So when it did this, there was a lot of silicon, thank you, that formed on the 4th planet, which happened to be in the right habitat ring, the safety zone between the large outer planets, gas giants that absorb the meteorites, things like that, and the inner planets that get too hot, in that Goldilocks zone. That's a technical term there, Goldilocks zone. So the Wilderlands planet, the 4th planet of the system, was right in that zone. It had a unusual but just regular kind of cycle. Things evolved. The most notable thing is that silicon, thank you, silicon, formed into one gigantic life form under the Earth's surface, under the planet's surface. It kind of became just one giant being, all-powerful planet-type god thing. So it was cool. It was chilling out. Life evolved on the surface. From the original setting, life evolved. Pegasi, fairies, dragons, just Pegasus and fairies to begin with. So, due to Bob Bexlaw's assholery, I've gone ahead, since I know he loves Pegasuses so much, and I said, what's close to Pegasus, but it's a kind of a gay icon, is My Little Ponies. What has a perfectly balanced Pathfinder playbook? My Little Pony, which is really weird. If you ever get a chance to read the book, it will drive you crazier faster than the Necronomicon, but it's perfectly balanced. Like, there's nothing. You'd think for a late Pathfinder rule book, it would be broken as all get out, but kudos to the writers because they got the balance on it just right. Nothing in there seems broken. Not other like late Pathfinder stuff, and it's a game cycle thing. Everything at the end gets a little out of whack. Second edition got out of whack. 3.5, even the late 3.0 stuff got out of whack, even though 3.5 was so soon. It's just the life cycle of a game. 5th edition will be getting there sooner or later. Yeah, 5th edition's pretty balanced. I don't like it, but it's balanced. Right, so so I made these the My Little Pony unicorns, and the My Little Pony things, and then additionally for the fairies, I've taken Monty Cook's Arcana Evolved Faen. They're fairy type people, and I have they're in the race class list. I've made them asexual, and they reproduce with eggs. They're also gender fluid because they don't understand gender norms. That's just a nod to fuck off the current intellectual property holder. Anyway, right, so everything was going cool. Some stellar dragons showed up, and they were all like, hey man, we're the size of a large starship, and we think your planet's cool, so we're going to put some eggs down here because, it's our job. It's what we do. We fly around and put eggs in planets. Boom, dragons. Bada boom, bada bing, dragons. By the way, planet, you're going to be... the planet. The dragons were intelligent enough, and being huge, they understood that the planet was alive, and so they got the planet's permission to put dragon eggs on it and hatch and evolve dragons. Then they told the planet, they foretold the planet's future, and they said, you're going to be invaded by humanoid races, and they're going to have the bodies of apes. Humans have the bodies of apes, the intellect of a dragon, and the hands of squids, which is a weird way of saying what we are. We have the intellect of a dragon, we have the body of an ape, and we have these deadly little fingers here that are all fingery. Still getting the camera right and left here done out. So, the planet decided to play around, and they made the first humans, or they call it the first man. The first man has the size of an ogre, has the body of a gorilla, the head of a dragon, and the digitally little fingers look basically octopus hands. Hey man, what are you going to do here? Giant sentient planet, you're not that creative. It then sensed that people were coming, so it went ahead and hid its population in vast underground vaults. This part of the story never makes any sense to me. The planet was invaded. This does come to my favorite part, though. The planet was invaded because the Magicerium, one of the two metals produced by the sun, which has coalesced around the planet in the form of a ring on the planet and mines and things like that, is powerful enough that in its refined state, it could run a starship for thousands of years. It could run it for multiple lifetimes of multiple lifetimes. It basically, if you had a couple of large Magicerium rocks and refined it, you could run the Enterprise forever, till all the parts broke. You still would have energy after that. So an ambitious star. What do they call it in the book? It's the Eldar Star Coalition. It's kind of like a empire meets a federation. It's a star coalition. Yes, it is. It is exactly like that, and they have a non-interference agreement, and rules of for first contact and all that stuff. And so, being that the planet acts on the planetary scale, which is 1 day equals 90,000 or 90 years, it just waited like 300 years to do anything because the planet was trying to figure out what's going on. So when it did happen, the Eldar Star Coalition had broken open one of the vaults and released a whole bunch of dragons. Yeah, that fight didn't go so well. Needless to say, the Star Coalition was extremely upset by this. They had no idea that there were inhabitants on the planet. They didn't know that the planet was partially sentient either. So, again, this is stuff that happened in the setting 40,000 years ago. But it's important because evolution on D&D planets has always bothered me. It's kind of one of these things where it's like, magic fixes that. So here we are with a whole star coalition of 250 different races or more that have partially settled on this planet. Built mining operations, everything you think with a futuristic mining operation. So mining robots, mining people, mole people, digging up rocks, and refining centers, and space ports to get the refined rocks back out into space, meteorite mining coalitions. The planet only had 2 moons to begin with, a larger moon with an inhabitable atmosphere and artificially heavy gravity. And the planet likes artificial gravity. It has its own in certain spots. It's kind of weird, but it's part of the setting. So you'll come across areas where there's lighter than normal gravity. Not noticeable for you or me, but the plants that have been growing there for thousands of years are enormously tall because there's less. They can grow taller because there's less gravity holding them down. And vice versa. There'll be areas where the plants are tiny because it's increased gravity and maybe you're less strong there or something. It rarely comes up. So there's a second empire. The Calgorians, basically Klingons. They show up and they're all like, wow, we want these rocks too because your spaceships run forever on them and we want the same thing. There's plenty of it so we can share. And the planet, the Eldar coalition's all like, yeah, but we just found out that there's sentient people here, so we have to abide by their witnesses and all this other stuff. And they want permanent settlers to live on the planet and never leave. And then we gotta leave because we did this stuff. And they're all like, cool, dog. So the other alien coalition was all like, so we're just gonna bomb you from space. That's an awesome idea. And they started a war. This part's completely inconsequential because the war then takes place off planet. It's traveler stuff. It just happens far away. But the planet demands, as part of its sacrifice, that each of the sides puts up members of their races corresponding to, I think it was 30 or something like that, for every different race on their coalition to make a permanent home on the planet. It's a weird request for a sentient planet to make, but the sentient planet enjoys dreams, and having a variety of people there meant really crazy dreams, so it liked it, and it decided it was going to have that. So basically, the planet acts as one giant GM for the game setting. I'm not the planet GM. The planet GM just sort of exists and has done all this stuff in the background in the past and still some of it in the current. 256 different races 250 from the Eldar Star Coalition, and then 6 more from the Klingon Star Federation. Settle the planet. So there we get all the crazy races that you're about to see. So let's look at sorry. There we are. Cursor moving around. Let's look at the known game world. So you're probably saying to yourself, Adam, we had all this star technology. What happened? Well, yeah, lots of bad stuff happened thousands of years ago that has left the planet in most of the technology is somewhere between the Bronze Age and the Steampunk era. With different pockets of technology being higher and lower in corresponding areas. This map on the screen left is that's the known game world. That's where our games are going to be taking place. That's the majority of the setting that is fleshed out. That is roughly the size of, we're going to say, from Spain on the south to Israel in the north, Italy to North Africa there. So basically the Mediterranean area corresponds pretty closely with the size of this map. The size and the fact there's one giant body of water is all that the Mediterranean has on this setting. But there are other parts of the map, but your character wouldn't know anything about that. They know the planet's round, and people live in other places of the world, but they don't know anything about them. Very little is known about anything that's off the map. Too far, anyways. They know there are demon empires in the south, and that there are in the west. There is more stuff. The what is that? The meridian, the equator of the planet was roughly, if this just mouse is showing up, just north of this large isle, right about there. The main game setting, if this is showing up, the Invincible Overlord. His keep is, or his city, state of the Invincible Overlord, is over here. The World Emperor is over here. And we're taking place all the way down here. In the Gondor map here, or Gindor. In the Gindor Highlands, near the swamp. I'm moving the map. This map is utterly massive, like 110 megabytes of map here. And there we are, the Devil Tongue Peninsula. The screaming hyena jungle. I always love those names. So other things that have happened in the past in the game world that impact these stuff. There was the Great Decision. At one point, people started learning that being born near this Magicurium was giving them magical properties. In addition to that, the planet was reading the population's minds and reached out to the corresponding deities of all the different races and peoples that live there and invited them to come and invite themselves to the planet. Super cool and all, until you've got like 200 different gods of lightning, and they're all like, but I want to shoot lightning right now. This storm is my storm. Oh, you're a storm god, but not a lightning god? I'm a lightning and storm god. And then at one point, literally gods went to war. Which is why my gods list looks like I threw darts at a list of gods, and because I kind of did throw darts at a list of gods. Should I have not done that? I think I should do that. So mental setbacks. There was literally a war between people that wanted to use technology and people that wanted to use magic. 1,000 years later, The gods then went to war. At one point, the Klingon Star Empire showed back up, and they were all like, and the dragons who had citadels and cities were all like, hey, you can't come back here. You're not supposed to be back here. And they were literally all like, F you, we've seen this movie. We're going to nuke you from space. And so the Klingons nuked the dragons from space. Cool stuff that happened in this game setting. It's not the Klingons, it's the Kalgons. And they've got like a ridge on their forehead and weirdly brown skin. And they scream about honor all the time and wield weird curved swords. Totally not Klingons. And there's Eldarians. Totally not the Eldar from 40K either. Totally. So that's where we get these weird list of stuff here. So we're going to flip over to... Where's my cursor? There's my cursor. Sorry. And there we are. Class race list. Sorry. Boop. Okay. Let's adjust this slightly. Here we go. So, let's go over the species real quick. Actually, I think this video is quite long enough. So we're going to cut this, and then we're going to come back in a few minutes and go over the species and that kind of stuff. So that's the game setting. It's currently 6,000 years since the gods fought to the death. Technology is... We're post so many apocalypses that we've circled back around, and it's cowboy times. Not quite, but we've circled back through, and we're in the medieval Dark Ages, European Dark Ages, after all this stuff. Occasionally you do find cool laser rifles. Occasionally. We'll talk about that in a second in the next video. Thank you.